The pursuit of truth is often met with deceit, but the quest for liberty always discovers the truth. Hi, I'm Jake Fogg with InternetDeputy.com, where it's not about politics, it's about liberty. I want to preface this video prior to actually speaking here. I am in no way inciting violence because it's real easy for liberal pansy asses to go around saying that we are inciting violence and they can call us warmongers or whatever. But that's not what I'm doing here. As a matter of fact, it seems to be the liberals that happen to be violent, but they don't like it when you point that out. But as you know, we're at war. We're at war for our culture, and we have lost a lot of ground. We are at war. We are in a war of information, which is actually maybe affording us the ability to gain some of that ground back. Viewership on cable networks is going down. Viewership on the main networks over the air are going down, and more people are turning to the internet. That helps us because, as you know, more and more conservative outlets are popping up all over the place. More and more readers are seeing this. So that's actually good. But we still have a lot of ground to catch up. And it really helps us if we know kind of how this got started and how we lost so much ground, right? I posted a story on Internet Deputy that I shared to Facebook a couple of days back. It was regarding our president and his speech in Poland, which, of course, he talked about, protecting Western civilization. And of course, immediately websites like Vox, Salon.com, and some of these others, I think The Atlantic, decided to take that ball and do what they do best, which is change the term. What does Western civilization actually mean? Western civilization, as we know it, is really about living in a free society. It has nothing to do with, as they say, white Christian supremacy. It has nothing to do with that. Yes, there are Judeo-Christian values in our culture, but that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with white supremacy. It does have to do with freedom. It's Judeo-Christian values that has instilled us with the ideology that makes us want to be free and worship on our own and live our lives without being interrupted by the government, who has no right to impede our living standards so long as what we do doesn't impede the living standards of other people, right? Anyway, what was interesting was I got one of the responses I got when I shared that to Facebook was that, and it was disappointing, was that this is just the liberal media and only people listening are liberals. The only people listening are liberals, and so we're just going to what? Shut up? I was disappointed. We're going to shut up because, well, only liberals are listening to this. No, they're not. And who are the liberals? A lot of those people came from our own kids, right? Another story I posted that I was very proud of, which was about feminists feeling inferior to sex robots. The story itself was really a focus on feminism and how horrible it's gotten and what their mindset is. And it was really funny when somebody responded with, and I guess I should have expected it. Somebody responded because of one of the pictures that, in the front end of the stories, which tries to, get people to at least click on it. They were trying to be humorous. The response was that oh, that robot looks really sexy or something. And I was like, didn't you read the story? The story wasn't about that at all. It actually showed how feminists are so hell-bent on controlling men that they will go as far as saying that an object, subscribing to an object, is partakes in or contributes to objectification of females. In fact, basically what it boils down to is feminists don't want men to have sex with anybody or anything. They don't want They don't want men having sex with women because it shows some sort of control. But if you have sex with a robot, it means that you are uh, engaging in rape culture because the robot didn't consent. I mean, it's that kind of thinking I was trying to highlight in this. And the response was, after I said, "Hey man, didn't you read this?" He says, "I gave up paying attention to liberals and feminists long ago. They're all crazy bitches. I would encourage you to do the same and quit wasting your time. You'll just go crazy." I was very disappointed at this, and this is exactly, and it reminded me, this is exactly why we're at war. This is exactly why we're losing our culture. It is this attitude that for so long has allowed the left to slither in and change things. They primed this. They've been at it a long time coming. This is the result of generations of high school and college students being intentionally misinformed, right? And what got us here? Well, we know that this goes way back. I mean, probably to Theodore Roosevelt, right? And the real first full progressive president was Woodrow Wilson. But this misinformation really has been on steroids since about the mid to late 70s. And while some of the misinformation is due to parents not paying attention, the fault does not fall squarely on them. The progressivism begets more progressivism, right? By the end of the 70s, there were two major changes in the dynamics of American life. The value of the dollar had dropped considerably. Why? Essentially, there was too much government meddling in the economy. And with that, we saw an increase in households with more than one parent working, right? So when you look back at, say, Leave It to Beaver, and you see the values that, when you watch the program and you see the values that were captured in that show, you'll notice, the mother was home all the time, taking care of the kids, making sure that they were keeping an eye on things, right? It wasn't just the father. The mother communicated with the father when the father got home, right? Um, we saw a huge decrease in this with the devaluing of the dollar, forcing more people to get out and work. Uh, we also saw more households with only one parent. We saw more welfare coupled with the onslaught of more progressive social ideas that did not encourage families to stay together. Uh, that has opened up uh, that has opened up our system to have less parents aware of what's going on in the school systems, right? At the same time, we saw the institution of the Department of Education, which, when you double it down with the fact that many of the colleges and high schools were comprised of teaching staffs that were essentially leftists, uh, we'll say hippie leftovers from the 1960s, it's a recipe for a national mind wipe. And that's exactly what we saw. And it has really gotten underway since about then, and things that we never would have expected back in those days are things that we see now. How many people probably said to themselves, "Oh, these guys are idiots or whatever," and they thought of the liberal people as the liberal progressive movement is nothing more than a bunch of hornblowers that wanted to bring attention to themselves. They never really thought they were a threat, right? Um, So, and again, that's not to say that the leftist movement didn't start a long time ago. I mean, it was spreading. It was spreading all over Europe, starting in the early, well, right after World War One, right, the early 20s. And fortunately, at that time, we pretty much avoided it, even though Woodrow Wilson was in power up to that point. Um, but the 1979, at that point, we see the Department of Education instituted, and that really gave academia the ability to infiltrate the family. However, over the years, many many working adults that may have disagreed with progressive elements were going on around them. Or the elements that were going on around them were too busy taking care of families, living their lives, to worry about it. I would also argue that many of them probably viewed, like I said before, most of this nonsense as harmless. Now, here we are, looking at our great nation. The greatest nation that has ever existed is now crumbling, right? We're fearful that soon it could go all the way. Ronald Reagan said, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed down for them to do the same. Ronald Reagan was in office when many of our kids were being brainwashed. While some of our parents were fortuitous enough to teach us the values of freedom, many did not. Again, it wasn't by design, it wasn't their intention, it just happened. And the following generation did even less to reinforce the idea of freedom. Before we knew it, we had a socialist president in office, right? And it's kind of sad to say that we had a socialist president in office. At the time, they weren't. He wasn't when he was running for office. Wasn't advertising himself as a socialist. What was even more alarming was after his 2 terms, there was actually a socialist and a devout, open, out-in-your-face socialist trying to run for office, and there was people ready to vote for him. Scary. Um, this brings me back to the disappointment that I shared earlier. On Facebook, I belong to more than 100 groups, probably more like 140. I'm trying to promote freedom through my website and the use of these groups to get the story out. Yes, a lot of the groups I'm affiliated with, they're looking for donations and they're devoting themselves. Me personally, I'm trying to get advertising, but not solely to make a buck. In fact, I quit my regular career managing restaurants and took a part-time job so that I could get serious with this. I spend most of my time writing and analyzing the news and finding ways to elevate the story of freedom, right? What we need to be doing and trying to show the fallacies of the left and how those things hamper our freedom. Um, while I realize that I may never earn the money that I'm used to making, I have to do this. Writing is my strength, liberty is my passion. I've said it before, it is not about politics, it's about freedom. So when I get a response that tells me not to take it seriously or no one is listening, I want to choke those people, right? They're almost as bad as the liberals that they say they can't stand. Sure, they may agree with me, but we are far beyond scrolling through Facebook and laughing at memes and making fun of liberal idiots, right? This is very serious. And as many jokes as we can make about it, it's not helping us. We have to get the word out. And this is a fight I'm not going to let slide. And the people that want to be naysayers within the conservative community and want to ignore it and think that their word means nothing or discourage others from trying to speak their word, they have no idea how close their freedom is to being lost. This is a fight, and I will not let anything slide. Because being silent is giving consent. Liberal progressives do not have my consent to walk all over me or my patriot friends and call us whatever they feel or define us as they wish. They don't have this right. And while not every conservative has the wherewithal to fight or speak out, they can at least encourage those who are out there trying to make a difference, right? Or they can keep their damn mouth shut. I have a lot of conservative libertarian friends all over the country who are fighting the good fight every day. Some of them are Arthur Schopper, Dana and Gary Yeager with the Elusive Progress. They're on the front lines every day in California. They are showing the world what the media won't, right? They're out there showing what really happens in protest and not allowing the media to just discount it as some kind of a white supremacist movement. Scott Kesterson, backed up by Lisa Bakke with the American Brand. Scott is traveling all over the United States to help America understand, cement, and grow the freedom voter base. He wants to find out why 62 million people voted for Trump, and he wants to cement that and grow those numbers. He wants to find out and tap into that thinking and grow it. There's my friend Beth Ryan, who from Nevada is keeping Facebook hot with new information relative to our freedom. She's constantly posting, constantly researching, and constantly getting the word out. Other friends who are speaking out include Lee Tabin, Toddy Grimwald, Trip McNeely, Buka Lick, Karen Stone, Jacob Rolfe, Narveen Ariputri, and Joseph Eastwood, and hundreds of others. I mean, literally, of the 7,000 friends I have, at least 12 or 1,300 of them are out there really taking this seriously and pushing. I'm not saying the rest aren't. I'm just saying these people are really going a step above and beyond because their freedom is that important, right? Um, they're bringing us information, writing, protesting, counter-protesting, creating videos, and just speaking out. Sadly, some of them, due to where they live, have few friends because of their position politically. I just had one tell me that they're kind of on their own anymore. Their passion for freedom, though, is so important they're not willing to back down, not even for long-term friends. Um, while I think these people are awesome with their passion for liberty, I simply cannot tolerate anyone who would discourage taking part in it, especially when it's a self-professed conservative that apparently agrees with what we're saying. As I said earlier, we are in a war. And again, I reiterate, I do not condone violence. However, I do believe that standing up and fighting for my liberty is most important. If I run into people that wish to call me names like white supremacist or racist or whatever, I will always fight back. This seems to happen a lot, especially on Twitter. Not so much where I live out in the public, but if you're in California, that's a typical thing. And I think that the biggest mistake that some of us make is that we go on the defensive. When I see that kind of behavior, I challenge them. I'm not a racist, nor do I care anything about white supremacy. In fact, I don't like the idea. It's ridiculous. We're never going to have a nation uh, that truly views people for being people until we work on only identifying people by their personality traits. I think it's ridiculous to be proud of a race. You cannot be proud of something that's just like uh, being proud of your looks. How can you be proud of your looks? You have no choice in the matter. So, be proud of your accomplishments. And I think that's how people should be judged, based on what they contribute, not what they came to this planet with, right? But you have to tell them immediately when you hear somebody refer to you, or when I hear somebody refer to anybody as a white supremacist because what we supported Trump, or we're conservative, or we believe in border control. I tell them, no, you're the racist. You are the racist. Not anybody else. You are, because you make blanket statements. You don't have a right to make stereotypical statements. Isn't that one of the signs of racism? Is stereotyping a group of people? When you stereotype a group of people, you are engaging in racism, and I tell them that. Um, I usually find that when I do this, I immediately put them on the defensive, and they have to start backing themselves up. I was at a gas station like a couple of months ago, and a Mexican woman was pumping gas in the car behind me, and automatically starts telling the person in her car in Spanish that I was a racist. She may have been looking at my Gadsden sticker. I don't know. Um, so I walked up to her and I said, "Hey, ¿por qué dices que estoy racista? ¿No me conoces? ¿Es porque piensas que yo quiero controlar la orden? Sí, es la verdad. Yo quiero controlar la orden porque no me gusta drogueros, cholos y terroristas pasando adentro de mi país. Esos tipos de personas quieren matar mis niños, quieren matarme y otras personas, pero no porque no me gustan hispanos. No tienes derecho a decir eso. Tú no tienes derecho porque no me conoces. La razón por qué quieres pensar de esas cosas es porque tú miras demasiado en las noticias de Telemundo o Univision. I said, you don't like me because why? Because you think that I'm against Hispanics? You think that it's because I want to control the border? I'm a racist? Is that what your thought is? Well, the point is, I don't like terrorists. I don't like drug dealers. And I don't like people unchecked coming into our country. And especially when there's a chance that those people could come over and cause harm to my kids. I said, and you should be worried the same. That if you want opportunity, you're not going to have it by coming over here illegally. I also told her that the only reason that you believe this crap is because you're listening too much to the news and Telemundo and Univision. She didn't have anything to say after that. In fact, she was kind of starting to tear up. She got in her car and pulled out abruptly. I'm not going to tolerate it. uh, I'm not going to be evasive in my body movements. I'm going to be very careful, but I don't want people being able to say, "Oh, he was threatening me and being violent." No, but you know what? I'm going to take them down every single time I'm going to say something, every single time. Because if you don't, you might actually end up backing somebody off. If you do, you might make somebody think twice. Um, I've had a couple now that I actually follow on Twitter that stopped calling people racist, stopped making those allegations because I attacked them back. When I saw that they were trolling Trump or somebody who is talking about freedom and border control and that sort of thing, when they start talking their crap, I will say something. They do not have a right to decide who you and me are. They do not have a right to decide that I'm a racist or anything else. They do not have that right when all I care about is freedom. And I think that's really important that we consistently point out that, look, you might believe your ideology, but you're nothing more than a lemming if you're actually believing in that stuff. That means you haven't taken the time. You haven't taken the time to actually study or read any of this. You don't even use common sense. If you allow a bunch of people to come over the border, what does that mean? These are people we don't know, and they're going to attack us. If you really believe that we can vet them all, listen to our DHS secretary and find out how he feels about it, because he's already said 50 states have open investigations. All 50 states, that even includes Rhode Island. That's kind of scary. If we have 50 states investigations open on terrorists and we don't know who's here, yeah, we could already be attacked and we wouldn't have any control, regardless of the fact that we voted for Trump, regardless of the fact that he's cracking down right now. There is still potential. Why? Because we allowed it to enter. And it goes back to the same thing with the Polish speech. Western civilization is not about trying to call out racism. It's to try to protect our culture, and our culture is about the biggest thing: freedom. Regardless of what anybody says, it's about freedom, and uh, we have to constantly ram that home. We have to constantly keep telling them that. Every time they say something, pull your freedom into it. No, I'm sorry, this is about my freedom. I apologize that you're that misled, but this is about freedom. Your ideology necessarily requires you to be a collective robot and go on the government dole and require permission from the government to do everything, including your own health care, including what you say, including what you do, how you live, and where you drive. So you have to, even people who want to talk about global warming and climate change, when they start talking about how cars are bad for us, you know what? Cars come under the biggest attack, and they do so indirectly by hitting us with things like cafe standards and talking about global warming and climate change, because cars, to the pseudo intellectual progressive, maybe not the lemmings that are following, but to the ones who are actually trying to steal our freedom, they represent the biggest form of freedom they are. In fact, they are the ones that classify driving as a privilege, right? They classified driving as a privilege so that they could get away with being able to take the privilege away sooner, right? The truth of the matter is, they can't stand that you can take your keys, go out to your car, and drive anywhere you want in the United States. They don't like that. These are the same people that tout the wonders of public transportation, even though it's never solvent, even though the government has to support it financially. They're they it's just another attack of freedom. And so when these people try to use any argument against me, I'm armed. I'm going to tell them, and I think you should too. If you don't know the facts, find out the facts. If they want to start talking about climate change, hey, ask them, why don't they ever talk about solar activity? I mean, the sun is a pretty important thing, and if there's special activity going on it, wouldn't that have an effect on our climate? Oh yeah, but they keep forgetting to report that. Interesting, and they again, NOAA and NASA has been caught fudging the numbers so that they can make their little claim. The truth of the matter is we have to continuously uh, show these people up. If it comes to uh, any argument, you just got to find the right statement. If somebody is trying to go after our past based on slavery. Hey, but guess what? It was white people that stopped it, and it was never intended to continue. Our founders didn't want it to continue, but what other country? What other country who has overtaken another land didn't engage in slavery or didn't kill people off? The difference is as Dinesh D'Souza once pointed out, we have taken this country. One of its the coolest things about us is that we have taken conquest and exchanged it for wealth creation, and that's basically what capitalism is: giving people the ability to make something of themselves on their own and not have to be accountable to anybody for it. They do it on their own freedom. So every time these people want to engage in these, and some of them may not listen, but I guarantee a good many of them are going to have a seed planted in the back of their head. It may even cause some of them to actually research it. Maybe what I've been listening to isn't correct. But we still got to tear them down. We still got to, even if they don't listen, we still have to slap them in the face and say, hey, you're not going to talk about me like that. I'm going to come after you every single time. Uh, my freedom is too important. Your freedom is too important, and we cannot fall prey to the collectivist notion that they all have to listen to us. They are lemmings. They're heading over a cliff. They are too stupid to realize it. But maybe we can help some of them. But more importantly, maybe we can preserve our freedom. We have to make these people scurry back into their little hole. For a long time, they'd stay. They would pop their little head out, and they would come, and then they would pop it back in because they knew that their argument against freedom was very slim. And now social justice has taken precedence over freedom, and we need to take that notion back. Uh, but I will not tolerate any. I will not tolerate any conservative that wants to keep their mouth shut or that wants to encourage others to keep their mouth shut. Anyway, we're in an information war. God bless all of you for engaging in it. And I hope I didn't ramble on too much in this video. And I hope that if you like my writing, you'll visit me on internetdeputy.com. God bless and have a great day.